Time now to take a look through the international newspapers, and for that I'm joined by Florence Villamino. Hello. Florence, now Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, he's all over the papers at the moment, obviously with that row between the UK and Ecuador. And yesterday, on Sunday, he spoke for the first time since going to the embassy in London, the Ecuadorian embassy. He defied the British government and he took aim at the US.
That's right, it's all over the press today, and we're going to start by looking at the Independent. It's on the front page there, and it says Assange's pulpit, and there's a photo of him delivering his, quote, sermon against the US. And there's also a great cartoon in the Independent that you see there, where it says, you see Assange at the embassy there, and it's called Exita, and you see him singing "Do Cry for Me, Ecuador." So, of course, a reference to the famous film Evita and their famous song "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina." Exactly. And so during his speech, Assange called on the US to renounce its witch hunt against WikiLeaks and himself, but a lot of the British press is critical of Assange because during his speech he didn't once mention the sexual assault claims he's wanted for in Sweden. And in fact, the editorial in the Guardian completely refocuses the story and says that we must not confuse Assange and all the valuable services that he performed at WikiLeaks and the serious accusations that are facing him in Sweden. And to quote the editorial, it says that Mr. Assange is not facing a show trial over the journalism of WikiLeaks. He's dodging allegations of rape and sexual assault. So it's very critical of Assange and his supporters for pushing these allegations to the sideline. The editorial of The Guardian also criticizes Assange for being hypocritical because during his speech he mentioned the importance of freedom of speech, and yet he chose to exile himself at the Ecuador's embassy. And Ecuador doesn't have a great track record for freedom of speech. According to Reporters Without Borders, the government shut down 6 radio stations and 2 TV stations in just one fortnight this June.
And there are some papers actually looking at the reasons why Ecuador decided to grant Assange asylum.
That's right. It's not all about Assange, according to a paper in the International Herald Tribune. This is a piece by Anita Isaacs, who's a professor of political science at Harvard. And she says that though Ecuador is in a standoff with Britain, what's really at the heart of the whole situation is politics, both regional politics and local politics in the Western Hemisphere. So it's not at all about protecting Assad's rights, according to this article. Basically, Correa is settling an old score with the US. He's also showing his political prowess in the lead-up to the Ecuadorian presidential election next year. And most importantly, he's trying to make a play for leadership in Latin America because Hugo Chavez is sick right now, and so he's opened up a vacuum for this. So basically, Correa is trying to put Ecuador in the limelight. Now, there's a very harsh article in the Wall Street Journal, their editorial, that goes so far as to say that Correa is doing his best to join the axis of the world rogues and showing his solidarity with a fellow enemy of Western democracies, which according to this article is Julian Assange. According to this article, Correa and Assange deserve each other.
Now we're going to move on to another story that's getting a lot of attention in the international press, and that, of course, is South Africa. The striking miners there, more than 30 of them were killed last week. What are the papers saying about that, then?
We're getting a lot of reactions in the South African press. We're going to look at a piece in the Mail and Guardian, which says that the Lawnman tragedy is a watershed in post-apartheid policing and politics. Basically, it exposes the fact that this transformation of the police force that had been promised is a complete farce. Basically, the police response was grossly exaggerated, according to this article, and that's because the police has not evolved since the apartheid era. There's been no miracle transition, as it says. There's still this mentality of shoot to kill. The police, according to this article, is too militarized and not at all a community-based service. And this article blames the ANC government for failing to develop and implement a transition in policing. And this is reflective of a broader ideological and political decay, according to this article, which has become endemic to the ruling party.
And a quick look now at Japan and China, those disputed islands we've been hearing a lot about.
That's right. It's getting a lot of attention in the press today as well. It's on the front page of the International Herald Tribune. Protesters across China vent their anger at Japan. You see a photo of a Chinese protester attacking a Japanese-branded car. It's also on the cover of the China Daily. Anger erupts at the Japanese landings over this island dispute. There's a photo of another angry demonstrator. And just to finish, there's a very interesting article in the Christian Science Monitor I recommend you reading, which says that perhaps a way to resolve this problem between China and Japan is for them to get on the same page in terms of history, for them to find a common history. And if they can get on the same page historically, then perhaps they can move on and make peace.
All right, I'll be sure to check that out then. Thank you very much, Florence, and thank you for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.